Welcome back. Our next guest tragically lost his son and didn't know what to do with his personal belongings. It inspired him to begin taking fine art photographs of his son's most cherished possessions as a way to remember his life. He then spent 14 months meeting 33 families across Israel who lost someone in a terror attack, taking pictures of their sentimental items along the way. He describes this journey in his new book, and joining us now to discuss is visual artist and author of the book Heirlooms, Memories and Cherished Objects, Jay Garfinkel. Jay, thank you so much for joining us here on Wake Up America.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
You know, Jay, flipping through your book that I have right now on the desk, it's a story that is, your story aside, the book, is completely separate, is one of a tragedy that I can't imagine, and turning it into creating something so beautiful. Your book is so moving. And in the very beginning, you dedicate it to your son, saying his absence is a continuous presence. And I imagine that's something that you gave to these 33 families. Can you tell us a little bit about your decision to create it?
You know, I had a choice in facing my own grief, if I wanted to be a victim of it, if I wanted it to engulf me completely, and if I wanted to stop from everything that I was doing, because I had stopped for 4 or 5 months. I couldn't write, I couldn't create, I couldn't do anything. And I decided that I didn't want to be a victim of this death, and that I was looking for a way to get over it. And the only way that I could find is by being with people who were like me, who were also experiencing grief, where I didn't have to pretend that I was sad, or when I was happy, I could laugh and people wouldn't say, well, he's over it. I don't think you ever get over grief of a child. I think it changes, and I think you learn to live with it. And I found it very helpful being with these 33 families over time and helping them select an item of clothing or something that they own that would connect memory to an object.
And I'm sure those families found it so therapeutic. I know in the book you wrote, writers write, creators create. As you just said, you fell mute and then you got the inspiration. I want to go through some of the images a little bit. Can you tell us first that jacket that graces the front and the back? Why did you choose that?
Interesting. That's a great question. You know, that jacket was my son's jacket. He died at age 43 and he wore it from age 17 to 43. And I can say, without fear of contradiction, that I never liked the jacket. Over the years, it got so ratty. But you know, what do you do? He's an adult. And I tried to convince him to buy another jacket, but he wouldn't have it. But finally, the last month of his life, I said to him, you know what? It's Hanukkah's coming up. I'm sending you a jacket from LL Bean, which I did. And he said, you know, I'm really sick of wearing ratty clothing. I'm happy to get it. And then, of course, he died just 4 days before Hanukkah. And when I went to clean out the apartment, I discovered the jacket in the car, and it said, "For the junk man." And I thought, you know what? Instead of running away from it, from something I actually didn't like, I'm celebrating it because it's a wonderful memory of him. It was him.
What a positive outlook to have on that and to have that lasting memory. The photo is beautiful. Going through some of the other stories I saw in the book, there was a family you met, Orish, had 3 beautiful German Shepherds. I love that photo. He asked his parents, no matter what, if anything ever happened to him, to never get rid of those dogs. Can you tell us about that story?
Sure. I met this family, and they had the 3 dogs. You know, I'm not allergic to dogs, but I'm really afraid of barking dogs, especially this is a father, a mother, and the baby dog. Now, he was the son. He was killed by a terrorist. And interestingly, he asked his parents, if anything ever happens to me, would you take care of the dogs? And the parents agreed. And they told me, frankly, we don't like these dogs either. It's really a pain. For the mother, it became very therapeutic because after her son died, she refused to leave the house. And she went out of the house only to walk these dogs. I have a camera assistant, a studio assistant, and she spoke to the dogs while I tried to maintain some semblance of calm. And, you know, lights and cameras and German Shepherds.
German Shepherds.
They don't heed me at all. So my assistant was throwing food at them. It took 168 photographs before I could get everybody in focus at the same time. And I think the picture really is nice, and it compliments the parents for taking on this thing. And the dogs are actually quite beautiful in the picture.
They are. It's a beautiful photograph for sure. Just one of so many of the dozens of stories you have throughout this book, and the photos all so impactful, each on their own. I know also, Jay, Benjamin Netanyahu supported your book as you moved to Israel. How was that? How was that feeling?
Well, you know, it's not every day you get to meet the prime minister. I got the call to meet him through a wonderful organization, One Family, the people that I did the book through. And they said, you know, can you be with the prime minister? He's got some free time at 1 o'clock, 1 to 1:30, be there. Mm-hmm. And I was totally unprepared. I went there and I met with him, and I was prepared for a meet and greet, a handshake, holding a book, and that will be the end of it. But that's not what turned out. What turned out was a half-hour conversation of the prime minister going through every single picture in the book,
wow,
asking me the story behind it. You know, tragically, he lost his brother, Jonathan Netanyahu, who was a combat a platoon leader leading the freedom of 167 hostages when they were taken in Entebbe airport. So he was very experienced. He's never really gotten over the tragic loss of his brother. And so he was interested in the book and how people began to deal with grief.
And amazing that he did have that time as he's leading that extremely successful vaccine campaign there in Israel. So what a nice moment. Jay Garfinkel.
We're almost well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I would love to keep discussing each one of these. I highly recommend your book, Heirlooms, Memory and Cherished Objects. Thank you so much for sharing just a little bit with us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.